What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Detail and Protect, and welcome back to getting to know your local installer. And today I have a cracker for you, and it is completely different. Our previous podcasts have been about automotive detailing and coatings and home coatings, where today we have a specialist in corrosion protection. Julian, welcome to the channel.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for fitting me in for this podcast. I know you're a very busy guy. I saw your post yesterday that you're already booked out for the rest of the year.
Yes, yep, all done for the year, starting for January already.
All you do is one thing. You're a very specialized business, and that's rust proofing, isn't it?
Correct. Rust proofing and giving people's cars a good detail when they come back from a four-wheel drive trip, and making sure that everything's still on point, and touching up anything if it needs to be.
Well, let's talk about it. Tell me about your business name and where you're located, please.
Yeah, so pretty simple. Julian Seeger Vehicle Protection Services. And located in the beautiful Hervey Bay.
Right next to Sid.
Right next to Sid. Sid was the legend that put me onto these great products.
I know that Sid talked about it in his podcast a little bit as well. But what makes Hervey Bay so special when it comes to four-wheel driving and corrosion?
I think because of the accessibility that we have to, being able to go four-wheel driving on such a beautiful place like Fraser Island. And, there's a lot of people that have four-wheel drives in this area. A lot of people take the opportunity to, visit Fraser, to visit Rainbow Beach, and, they take their four-wheel drives into one of the most harshest environments that you can put them through. As a young lad, our parents pretty much took every opportunity to take our little Pajero or little Suzuki Sierra to Fraser Island, load it up with just camping gear and eskies, before the advent of solar and everything 12 volt, and we used to set up at the Wynyard Creek and be there for 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
How beautiful is that? And it's definitely on my to-do list, Fraser Island. It looks amazing. I just can't believe I haven't been there yet.
Well, as you know, I participate in the annual Fraser Island cleanup, and that's coming up again next year, and it'll be great to be able to hopefully see you over there one day.
I would absolutely love to. It's the best excuse to get away from the kids and wife, although she's probably watching this podcast and will hurt me for saying that. Well, hopefully they can come with me, to be honest. So you've been in that area in Hervey Bay pretty much your whole life? Pretty
much. My parents had groundings here already. Dad was a manager for Repco in Victoria, and he got sick and tired of the four seasons in one day, and decided to move us back to Hervey Bay in 1979, so I was just 6 years old.
And how long have you been in business for, and how long have you been doing rust proofing, Julian?
I started doing rust proofing as an apprentice, working for my father in our panel shop. And I've had a fair sort of a gap with doing that. But then when I started with my race car habits, I needed some additional funds to be able to support that, and started doing rust proofing after hours from my 9 to 5 job.
And it just grew to what it is now, and it's booked out months in advance.
Yes. 2020 was the turning point. COVID hit, everybody started setting up for traveling, and it just got busier and busier. And I gave up my daytime job and started with this venture on my own.
And Julian, for those who are watching the podcast that don't know about rust proofing, can you run us through the process, the products you use, and the benefits of rust proofing, or who is it applicable for?
Look, anybody who wants to go off-road, cars have changed a lot with their manufacturing over the years. They certainly aren't as bad as they used to be. But, the sheet metal on the vehicles are normally zinc coated, but the underneath of the vehicle is where you really start seeing any corrosion when they've been exposed to excessive salt. Being able to offer a service with maintaining a vehicle and applying different options for rust proofing, it's been really beneficial.
Because you go a lot further beyond just spraying, let's say, IGL Aegis. You dismantle stuff, you do inside of the chassis rails. Can you run us through that?
Correct. So for a long time, I've used a bitumen-based rust proofing, which coats all the underneath of the vehicle. A cavity wax does the insides of the panels, the insides of the chassis rails. And as you said, I take the effort to remove bash trays, guard liners, exhaust systems when they've not, got corroded bolts and stuff. I pull door trims off, gone are the days of just drilling a hole in a panel and sticking a wand in there and hoping you rust proof everything.
Wow, and people used to do that.
Exactly. That was the easy way to do it. Drill the holes, put the bungs in.
They must have moved to paintless dent repair now.
maybe, yes.
And Julian, I'm sure you would have seen over your 30 plus years of doing this, some horror stories. What's the most rusty car you have ever seen?
That'd probably be at the panel shop, sort of booked in for a restoration more than coming in for a rust proof. I do remember a vehicle coming in one time for a full restoration, and I thought it was a donor vehicle to be able to chop parts up for another car, but that was the car that was in for restoration. It was a ZD Fairlane.
What part of the cruisers, for example, for me normally go first? What do I need to worry about other than the whole thing because it's a cruiser?
Look, obviously you've heard the stories of troop carriers. Troop carriers have got a terrible reputation for rusting, but for your car in particular, in the chassis rail at the back of the chassis where the front leaf hanger sits, that seems to be the point on those that really hold the dirt and the grime, and then they start rusting from the inside out.
I need to drive to you so you can do my car, Julian. I know it's not too hard to do from the outside, but I need the Julian love from the inside.
Well, this is the extra service that I go and do. I mean, I'm not sure, I can't speak for everybody, but along with using IGL Aegis to protect the outside, I then go and take that extra step to coat the inside, so you're protected from both directions, basically.
And I know we had, it was Ben, I think it was, from Roaming Coastlines do a video with you a few weeks ago, and he was blown away by the effort that you go to.
You've got to. You have to. I try and treat a customer's car like it's my own. I want my own car to last, and people are paying for a service, and I try to give them the best that I can offer as well.
And you have not been with IGL for too long, but you've definitely risen as one of the superstars.
Thank you.
What are you up to now? You've passed the 12-month mark with applications.
Yes.
What are you up to? How many cars have you done so far?
I think I've got 37 so far.
And probably another 37 by the end of the year. Booked in.
Well, we have a few kits in hand ready to go, yes.
37 cars in 12 months is amazing. And you've just said that you have one of the first cars you did that lives on Fraser Island coming back for an inspection.
Yes, so I reached out to the Fraser Island ferries. They had 3 brand new Prados that I put the Aegis on. And, it's been over 12 months now. So I reached out to them and said, hey, look, I'm really keen to get in, give this car a good wash and an inspect and just see how it's going, because if it's going to test the product, it's going to be over there. It has not left the island since the product was applied 13 months ago.
What a test that is. I'm curious to hear about that test, but I'm also a believer of no news is good news. You're a specialist in corrosion protection for vehicles. You by far go above and beyond in dismantling. What tip do you have for somebody who's looking at getting into IGL Aegis? Because I get asked every single day by people who are looking at starting to offer IGL Aegis, including Jeff, who you introduced me to yesterday kindly. What tip do you have for those installers that want to get into it?
Look, I think you need to have some experience with working on vehicles. I know that a lot of people are afraid to pull things apart, that they're going to break something, they don't have an understanding on how things get, removed. But you've really got to sort of go that extra mile. And I think having knowledge in working on vehicles is an absolute plus. You don't have to be the world's best spray painter to be able to apply the product, but also having some sort of basic understanding on how to operate a spray gun and get a nice neat finish is also quite beneficial.
And the masking up, the prep, I know you really take a lot of time to mask up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have to then remove overspray from somebody's new vehicle. That's extra time. It's not nice to have to deal with that issue. So yeah, I take quite a bit of time to try and protect them.
Prevention is a lot better than cure, and you're working more efficiently with your time.
Yes, exactly. And we did hear a bit of a horror story some time ago where people didn't understand that if you get the IGL onto an exposed shock absorber, it can destroy the seals in the shock absorber. So that was a big thing that I took away. Make sure that if you've got any of these new remote res shocks that have those exposed tubes, cover them up. It's gonna cost you if you don't.
When in doubt, just take the cautious approach. It's not that hard to mask something up, and if you're not sure, just mask it up.
No,
or don't spray it.
That's right.
Well, I hope everybody who's watching this podcast can take that away, because it seems to be a repetitive issue that comes up with new installers that they don't do the prep properly and then end up calling me up saying, how do I get rid of this and how do I get rid of that?
Yep,
So
exactly.
just
Preparation
avoid
is key. Preparation's key. Make sure it's clean. The detailers, not talking about our detailers, but like the detailers at a showroom from when you buy a new car, they think that coating the vehicle in a heap of silicon makes them look pretty, but it's disastrous for trying to make any sort of corrosion protection stick. Got to remove all that silicon. You got to prep the surface, give it a good key. Make sure it's got something to hang on to.
And I have a really fantastic question for you. There's a misconception about dry ice blasting and that you have to have dry ice blasting. Can we set the record straight? How many dry ice blasting jobs have you done out of those 30 plus cars you've already coated?
None. I primarily do new vehicles. I try and do them before they've done any off-roading, any driving on wet roads. I have had people reach out to me for vehicles that are already several years old, and I've said to them, it can be done, but you're going to need to source someone to give it a professional clean, whether it's dry ice blasting or not, before it can come to me.
And that's the key takeaway, is that if you have the best time to do it for any product, not just IGL Aegis, when it's brand new, it'll cost you less because there's less prep and you haven't let the corrosion start to form.
Correct. I've got a 2015 Mitsubishi Triton. I would love to be able to upgrade it to a new one so I can showcase the product. But the Minister of Finance has said no more.
You have to watch Ben's podcast. The trick is to say, I'm buying it to sell it.
Look, I've always run on the term, it's easy to get forgiveness and permission, but you can only stretch that for so long.
Two things. It's a tax deduction and I'm sorry. It's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you just can't get approvals for purchase orders.
Yeah, exactly.
On the subject of family, you have a very, very unique story. So let's first talk about what Boosted BMW stands for in your name.
Yeah, well, many years ago, when I was 21, I bought an old classic BMW, an old 635, and it served me well for quite a few years. But then the power bug bit, and I sort of took a redraw on the mortgage before I was married, and turbocharged the old 6 Series. So, that was sort of around the same time that YouTube started becoming a thing. And that was how the name came about. Boosted BMW was my YouTube channel.
Is that still there? Boosted BMW
it's still there,
YouTube
yes.
channel?
Yes, still there.
I'm going to be checking it out. And do you still have that BMW?
I certainly do.
How much power does it make?
515 at the tyres.
It is a very nice looking BMW, by the way.
It certainly turns heads. It's the only E24 6 Series in the Hervey Bay area.
It is a beautiful, beautiful car they've really looked after. But that's not your only BMW. Tell me about your other BMW stories.
Okay, well, we've had many BMWs over the years. I managed to convince my wife that she needed an E36 M3 for her daily driver, which miraculously turned into my track car, competing in the BMW Club track days and time attack events. I then realised that if that thing ended up in the wall, there was no insurance. So I ended up buying a little E30 BMW and built that for doing hill climbs and track days. And we've had many different vehicles over time, E46 330s, X5 BMWs. I currently still race an E36 3 Series in Carnacross, along with my son. He's got a little Hyundai Excel, which you can see sitting over there.
Your son is doing really well with his racing too.
Yes. He's started getting a lot faster, so I've had to spend some money on his car and improve his safety gear in the last few weeks. I mean, he was the most unlikely kid to get behind the wheel of a car. He's a real computer tech. He's coding websites for my mother's artwork. He's doing all sorts of things. And, I always said that, before you get on the road, you're going to know how to drive. I ended up buying a little Hyundai Excel and set it up for him. And he's absolutely loving it. He's starting to scare me. Was
it your eldest son that ended up putting you guys on the news?
No, it was the youngest son. So I was at work. I got a phone call from my wife. She was in a bit of discomfort. It was labour pains. I drove home. By the time I got home, which was about a 15-minute drive, she was doubled over in pain. There was no time for an ambulance. We threw her into the 330 BMW, and it was a very fast trip to the hospital. Still didn't make it in time. About a kilometre away from the hospital, we had young Hugo come out in a rush on the floor of the car.
What a story is that?
Yeah, it even reached BMW Australia, and they sent us a letter saying congratulations and a couple of complimentary key rings.
How amazing is that? So you had not only are you boosted BMW and you have a story with your BMW from when you were 21, but your son came out in the BMW.
Yes, certainly did. We nicknamed the car the birthing suite after that.
What an amazing story. You're the only one who's racing a rear-wheel drive in a rally that I know anyway.
Yeah, look, the little front-wheel drive cars, they're quick little buggers. I've got a friend who's my nemesis. He's got a little front-wheel drive Peugeot, and he's fast, and it's always a good battle between us every round. We've got one round coming up in a couple of weeks, which finishes off the year, and yeah, we're fighting for position in the championship overall.
When in doubt, go flat out.
When in doubt, go flat out. Yeah, he's a good driver. He's competed in the Bathurst 6 Hour a couple of times in an old Toyota Camry, and he does a lot of those 24-hour Lemons races.
I've heard a lot about those. Apparently they're like really, really, really fun, where they'll make you do all kinds of funny stuff as penalties.
Yeah, and I think they run a series now called Not a Grand Prix, and it's the same sort of thing. They have endurance races and they make them do all silly things. So yeah,
sounds like a whole heap of fun. What about your other hobbies, Julian? I know you're into your camping still.
Yes, yeah, we like to try and get away in the caravan and go out in the boat and camp on Fraser Island. A few years ago, we took a 3-month break from work and school and did the trip up to Cape York and to Darwin. And it's a memory the kids are going to keep for years.
Is Cape York as hard as it looks online? Or is that like that? Is it called shotgun where they drop into
It can be hard.
Hole?
It can be hard. It depends. Like, we didn't do all the hard tracks. We still had to tow a caravan and get to Darwin after completing Cape York. So we went off the side tracks and did all the the waterfalls and the things to see, but we just stayed on the Peninsula Development Road. I don't think I put the car into true four-wheel drive the whole time. It was just in all-wheel drive.
Because people like me who live incredibly far away from Cape York, I look at these Facebook groups and I say, geez, this is like, really, really tough going. But a lot of people don't understand you can still get there, not having to go through the really crazy stuff.
Exactly. And there's more and more sections of the PDR that are getting done in bitumen. So, I can't see it being too long before you'll be able to take a Toyota Corolla up there, no worries at all, and do a weekend away.
I better get out there before that happens.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the Fraser Island cleanup, because I know we have spoken about it before and I really need to get in touch with them. But tell me a little bit more about it. What do they do? How long has it been going on for? How long have you been involved there?
Oh, geez. I know they've got an anniversary coming up. Don't quote me on it. I think it's 25 years or 35 years, something like that it's been going for. And I'm a member of the Fraser Coast Four-Wheel Drive Club, Four-Wheel Drive Association of Queensland, set up this Clean Up Fraser Island, and all the participating clubs, go over there with their members. We get discount camping and barge fees for a weekend. You got to spend, pretty much only 6 hours of one day out on the beach cleaning up the rubbish. I think our club has won the amount of rubbish collected for the last 2 years in a row.
Most of the rubbish getting washed up on the shore from the ocean, or is it just grubs that are leaving their rubbish behind?
No, thankfully, most of the rubbish is not from people visiting Fraser Island. The people that are going there generally treat the island with respect. Most of the rubbish is ocean-borne rubbish from trawlers, from container ships, from Indonesia washing down. Yeah, it's a real problem.
That's sad. It is sad. But at least, you guys are going out there and looking after it. And Sid was saying that there's a few dingoes on that island.
There are?
I've never seen a dingo.
It's a controversial subject, the old dingoes. When we used to go there in the early 80s and 90s, the dingoes were not a problem. But they had garbage ships to, rummage through. They had brumbies over there to be able to, chase and eat, obviously. We were allowed to feed them. They took all that away. And now they've become, quite aggressive because they're always searching for food.
Well, they are wild animals. They're not a pet, so you still have to respect. It's a wild dog, effectively a wild dog.
It is, and I actually see a news article coming up last week. I think it was. They're saying, should we allow people to keep dingoes as pets?
I don't think so.
No. Definitely not.
What's next? Keep a crocodile as a pet. Are there crocodiles on Fraser Island?
You can keep crocodiles as pets in the Northern Territory. It is legal.
How? Why?
I don't know.
Why would you want...
I visited a friend of mine that was working up in Darwin 15 odd years ago, and there was probably a 2.5, 3 metre saltwater crocodile in an enclosure in the person's backyard to where he was living.
That is the weirdest pet you can have. Yeah, snake, like Scott in Queensland, he's got a pet snake, and that's borderline weird, but having a crocodile as a pet, unless you're feeding him people who are not paying their tax invoices, I don't understand why you'd have a crocodile.
Those 1 in 100 customers that you have end up disappearing.
Yeah, maybe that's the secret to the 100% customer satisfaction. 5-star review, or you go say hi to my friend.
Yes, exactly.
Julian, going back to business as well, I'm quite certain you don't advertise. You're very much word of mouth.
Early on in the piece, I said to my wife I was semi-retired. I only wanted to have 2 or 3 jobs a week. Sometimes you'd struggle to get that, and I would do a little bit of Facebook, promoting. But I haven't placed a Facebook advertisement now for probably 3 years. It's just all word of mouth.
I'm going to throw you under the bus big time here. I think you are too cheap for the amount of work you do, but in a true gentleman's style, your response to me was, I'm happy with what I make.
Exactly. I mean, I am a one-man show. I work from home. I don't have many overheads, and I still make a good living. So, I'm happy to pass on, a good price to my customers, and that's probably why they keep coming back.
And it's lovely, and that reflects in your personality. You guys all came to the Brisbane 4x4 show and stayed there with me, helped me out last time. And it was completely voluntary. You guys didn't get paid for it, so I will forever remember that. And you really put so much effort in it as well. You weren't just standing there having coffees. So
no, it's good to mingle. I had a previous sideline business selling brakes for a few years, and I've made a few contacts in the industry, and I could see a potential for reaching out with them as well to showcase the IGL products.
Well, the good thing with IGL is they're always looking and developing something. So IGL Aegis was created not with four-wheel drives in mind. It was created with oil rigs and mining sites in mind. But as this industry continues to boom in Australia, who knows what they might come up with next. And I hope you're watching this, Keong and Albert. That's a hint.
There you go. There's an opening for like an IGL style hydrophobic wax to go on the insides of the chassis. There you go.
I'll make sure we're going to put that in the highlights reel. Tell me about your dad's business and the rust proofing, how long he did it and how long he continued doing it when he started.
Well, when my father moved back here in Hervey Bay, he started a panel shop again at home and then expanded to a shop where it still is today. He ended up retiring. I purchased the business and then I sold it as well. And it's in good hands still today. But I did not realise until not that long ago that my father and his father also offered a rust proofing service in Hervey Bay in our main street back in the 60s. The new cars would come in to Hervey Bay off the trains. They would steam clean all the wax off the vehicles and also rust proof the vehicles on site as well. So
you have about 60 years worth of rust proofing heritage, if you include your dad.
Yes, I certainly do. It was a very surprising fact that I found out, and it was I was quite chuffed to hear that.
That's incredible. That if you want to talk about rust proofing, there's nobody that I know that comes anywhere near your experience.
Yeah, well, I do remember Dad telling me when I'd come to work as an apprentice that I had a rust proof today, and really, because I hated doing them. You know, it was stinky and messy back in the days of using fish oil and Tectal, and but look, here we are now.
And how has the technology evolved over time? So you said they started off with fish oil, and then over the years, how has your business evolved into what you use?
Well, I haven't used fish oil. We've used a cavity wax and a bitumen sealant for many, many years. So, Sid approached me over 12 months ago with this new clear coat product. And I've seen clear coat products in the past, And I wasn't a fan, and I was very hesitant to give it a go. But he needed the use of my hoist to apply a product to a new Land Cruiser. And after seeing how it went on and the result, I was thoroughly impressed. And from that point on, I think I was sold, and it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Sid is a unique person because a lot of people that I've seen, they're not very open-minded to working with other businesses. They try to keep the booking for themselves, but they don't have the training or they don't have the facility to do the product. And then the customer doesn't get the job done. They don't end up doing the job. Nobody moves forward, where at least he's found you. And it's better to work with a specialist. Like, there's nobody else who I would take my car to if I was local than you, because who else has 35 years of experience? Right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. It's great to work with such a knowledgeable person too. I've also started applying Eclipse to the engine bays. I was thoroughly impressed. I was thoroughly impressed with how your engine bay looked. Considering what you have done with your vehicle, and it was certainly something that I wanted to also offer. But I made a phone call to Sid to make sure that he wasn't doing it. I didn't want to stand on his toes. He was nice enough to introduce me to Aegis, and I didn't want to take business away from him. So, he gave me the go-ahead, and it's been great.
Sid is a very good guy as well, but also good work brings good work. And at the end of the day, high tide rises all ships. So that's why I think, the more that people use certain products, if it's a good product and they educate the market about it, there's a real benefit. It's not about creating a hype for no reason.
Exactly.
If it's genuinely a good product, people need to know about it. And one of the things that upsets me is I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups, and I always see it, people post up, what should I get for my car? What should I do this? What should I rust proof it with? Unfortunately, the most common responses tend to be the most inaccurate responses. And it's just because it's just the easiest thing to do. I'd go get yourself a can of fish oil and spray
lanolin.
Or lanolin, yeah. The most common response is not necessarily the right response. It just...
No, yeah. And look, to be honest, fish oil is a product that will still work. But technology has evolved so much. My father's Pajero, it was rust-proofed in fish oil. But the poor old chassis rail ended up being, twice as thick as it came out of the factory, with just rust-proofing build-up, by the time we ended up selling it. It did not look nice underneath at all. It didn't have rust, but it certainly didn't look pretty.
Well, like you said, technology improves, and it doesn't mean that something back in the days was bad. Like, look at the Nokia 5110. All those old Nokias, they were fantastic when they came out. Doesn't mean that they're relevant today.
Exactly.
It's just educating the market about it. But Julian, mate, I've taken up more than enough of your time. Thank you for your time in doing this podcast, and sorry about the dropout we just had.
Not a problem.
I have a reputation to keep for being bad with technology, and there must be something I do wrong. It has to be done. But mate, thank you again for your time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in March at the Brisbane 4x4 show, if not earlier.
I will definitely be there, and hopefully we can all get together on this wonderful trip over to IGL HQ.
I definitely think we will be, definitely. Julian, you have a great day, buddy, and a great week.
Thanks, Damon. Take care, buddy.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.